In this episode, we go beyond the fantasy trilogy. Here are my top 20 favorite fantasy series that have four or more books. Here at Fantasy for the Ages, we're committed to sharing great books with people. You may not yet have discovered books that we love. Today I'm sharing a top 20 list. Great fantasy series that I've personally enjoyed that go beyond a trilogy. That can mean 4 books. That might mean 30 or more. The fantasy trilogy, it's pretty popular, and there are a few reasons. Tolkien, of course, did it back in the 1950s, The Lord of the Rings. Now, he actually didn't mean to write that as a trilogy. He intended just one book. But a paper shortage at that time and the technology for book binding just wouldn't handle the size of book he wanted to put out. So they broke it into 3. And people loved it. It sold well. Ta-da! The fantasy trilogy was born. Also, it lends itself to a decent format that many authors have found very comfortable now. Book 1, you introduce the world and characters, you give it an interesting story that gets people hooked, and show them overcome an initial challenge, but leave them revealing that there's more to come. Book 2, more of those challenges, more character development, but things tend to go less positively, and the characters and the stakes, everything kind of takes a beating, and you're left sometimes even with a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of the book, taking you into book 3, the climax of the trilogy, with some big resolution. This is where the author brings it all home, delivers on the foreshadowing and promises that came in the first 2 books, and if the author lands the plane well, they've created fans for life. To go beyond a trilogy as an author, well, you've got to have some real writing chops, a bigger vision, an epic story to tell. Thankfully, there are plenty of authors who pull this off wonderfully, and I've got some great examples of fantasy series. So, enough of words jabbering about it, let's get to the list. First, though, I've got 2 honorable mentions. The first one would be the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie. He started this in 2006, and it's still potentially going on. It's kind of done right now, but he has admitted he could write more books in the First Law world. It's got a trilogy, then 3 standalone novels, and then another trilogy. But it's all in the same world, all connected. Also, there are 2 short story collections with more goodness in the First Law world. The only reason it's just honorable mention is I've only read the opening trilogy. The rest are still to come on my TBR list, so I can't really rank it in the top 20 yet. I'm sure the next time I update this list, it's going to be somewhere in there and probably fairly high. So definitely worth an honorable mention. The other one that gets this honorable mention shout out is The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. Started in 1995, and this series wraps up in 2017. 16 total books. I used to not speak so highly of Robin Hobb, but I'm singing a different tune these days. The reason it's an honorable mention is I've only read 1 trilogy from the whole set, the second trilogy. So I can't rank it yet. I wasn't totally in love with that, the Live Ship Traders trilogy, but I've looked at it again. I've considered it. I'm like, maybe I was too harsh judging it, but I also should have started with the beginning of the trilogies or the beginning of the series. So I'm going to say this is probably going to hit my top 20 once I read them all. The rest of the books are on my TBR. And, the rest of the fandom out here in Fantasyland loves Robin Hobb, loves The Realm of the Elderlings. I'm kind of deciding they can't all be wrong. So honorable mention. Now, here's 20 that I have read all of, or nearly all of, and I can rank them with confidence. Number 20, Rhaenyra Revelations and Chronicles by Michael J. Sullivan. Started in 2011, and this is still ongoing. There are 7 books available so far. Rhaenyra Revelations is a fantasy series that follows the adventures of 2 thieves, Royce Melbourne and Hadrian Blackwater as they uncover ancient secrets and prevent a powerful conspiracy from plunging the world into chaos. It's really six little books that are published as a trilogy. But then it flows right into Rhaenyra Chronicles, which is actually a prequel series telling all sorts of stories of Royce and Hadrian's past, how their partnership got started, and how they built up such a legendary reputation, which is what they have when we meet them in Revelations. There's lots to tell. I kind of avoided reading Chronicles at first, going, no, I read Revelations. I know how it ends. I'm content. But then I was like, well, let me check it out, and I'm glad I did. Chronicles are delightful. You do want more about these particular characters. Number 19, The Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. He wrote these starting in 1970 and wrapping up in 1991, 10 books overall. This fantasy series centers on the royal family of Amber, which is a realm that represents the one true world from which all others are mere shadows, including ours. The first 5 books follow Corwin, a prince of Amber, as he navigates complex family rivalries, really complex, the deadly kind, and he battles for the throne and explores mysterious realms that are connected to Amber. Then the following 5 books extends the story further through Corwin's son, Merlin, who you meet in the original 5. Good stuff. Classic fantasy. Number 18 is the Xanth series by Piers Anthony. Started in 1977, he's still writing these books. There are 47 of them so far, and another one in the works. This is set, all these books, in the magical land of Xanth, where every inhabitant possesses a unique magical talent. Think about that. Everybody has something special they can do with magic that no one else can do. The series follows various characters on their adventures through this enchanted and often humorous realm, packed with puns and incredibly fanciful creatures. These books blend a lighthearted storytelling with very imaginative world building. You don't get stuck in really heavy stuff here. You just are entertained by Xanth. Number 17, a very different series from Xanth, The Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind. Begun in 1994, it concluded in 2020. So there was original books, the Sword of Truth series, and then 2 follow-up series, and I'm lumping them all together to give you 21 total books. This epic fantasy saga follows Richard Cypher, a young woodsman who discovers his destiny as the Seeker of Truth, a warrior destined to combat tyranny and dark magic. Alongside the powerful confessor, Kalen Amnul, Richard battles against oppressive forces set on world conquest, along the way uncovering deep truths about power, freedom, and the very nature of truth. Number 16, The Dark Tower by Stephen King. 1982 is when he wrote the first one and wrapped it up all the way in 2004. There's 7 books plus a novella and a short story. That novella came out in 2012, so later than the rest of the books, but it's set kind of right in the middle of the series. This is a genre-blending epic that follows Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger, on a quest through a vast, often surreal world to reach the mysterious Dark Tower, the nexus of all realities. As Roland gains unusual companions and faces various challenges, the series weaves together elements of fantasy, horror, western, and science fiction, exploring themes of fate, redemption, and the cyclical nature of existence. This is a confusing series for many people. It is a challenge to read it, but a challenge I found worthwhile. Number 15, the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Written from 1997 to 2007, there are 7 novels in this young adult series. There really wasn't young adult when she started this. So this kind of kicks off a new subgenre of fantasy. These books follow the journey of a young boy, Harry Potter, who discovers he is a wizard and attends Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, learning magic and uncovering his role in the battle against the dark wizard, he who shall not be named, Lord Voldemort. Along with his friends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, that he meets right off the bat as he heads to school and bonds with for life, Harry faces challenges and adventures that the author uses to explore themes of friendship, courage, and the struggle between good and evil. Number 14, The Rift War Cycle by Raymond D. Feist, written from 1982 to 2013. 31 books. Yeah, that's a big one too. This sprawling epic fantasy series begins with the Rift War saga, just a selection of 4 books where 2 worlds, Midkemia and Kilawan, are connected by a magical rift, leading to a war between their inhabitants. The series follows then various characters, especially a magician named Pug that you meet right off the bat in the first book, as they all navigate conflicts, political intrigue, and the forces of dark magic that threaten both worlds, expanding into a vast, multi-generational tale of heroism and destiny. You meet many different characters, some come and go because we're talking over hundreds of years, and yet it does all tie together. Amazing. Number 13, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Started in 2006, the last book in the series, there's 7 books so far, came out in 2022. More are to come. This fantasy saga is set in a world where magic is fueled by metals. In the opening trilogy, you've got a downtrodden population rising up against a tyrannical empire ruled by the immortal Lord Ruler. Jump ahead a few generations, 300 years, and we've got a quartet of books now where the world is more industrialized and old magic is blending together with new technology. Sometimes the blend is smooth and wonderful, sometimes it's kind of colliding in a rough way, and it's causing society to be a challenging place, plagued by conspiracies that could rip it apart. Fascinating, these 7 books. We call them Era 1 and then Era 2, and we've got Era 3 and I believe Era 4 on the way. In the midst of all of it, you've still got metal fueling magic. Interesting. Number 12, the Dragonlance series. Started by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, but many other authors have contributed to these books. This got started way back in 1984 and continues to this day. And in fact, Weiss and Hickman just finished another trilogy that's part of this sprawling series of over 190 books. This is a fantasy series that doesn't necessarily flow book to book to book. It's all of these books are in this world of Kryn, where heroes confront the forces of evil, wearing many different faces, including dark gods, and dragons, and much, much more. But the heroes kind of universally seek to protect their world from a variety of types of doom that otherwise would take over. The series blends epic battles, rich lore, and intricate character relationships as it explores themes of courage, destiny, and the ongoing struggle of light versus darkness. Number 11, Guardians of the Flame by Joel Rosenberg. 1983 to 2003, these books were written. There are 10 novels in the complete set. This is a portal fantasy series that follows a group of modern-day individuals who are transported to a magical fantasy world where they must use their real-world skills and knowledge to navigate the challenges of this new reality that looks a lot like traditional Dungeons and Dragons. As they struggle to adapt and survive, the series explores themes of heroism, teamwork, and the clash between contemporary ideas and knowledge and the fantastical elements of a world of Dungeons and Dragons. It's one of my favorites, just so good. Number 10, The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant by Stephen R. Donaldson. This actually has 3 sets. It was begun in 1977. The final set wraps up in 2013. So we've got a trilogy, then a second trilogy, and then a final quartet of books, but they all tie together. This fantasy series initially follows Thomas Covenant, a modern day leper who is mysteriously transported to a magical land, literally called the Land, where he is hailed as a prophesied hero, and he can't believe that any of this is real, thus, the unbeliever. And certainly not that he could be important. No. The series explores Covenant's internal struggle with his own skepticism and the moral complexities of his actions as he confronts dark forces and seeks redemption in a world fraught with political intrigue and epic battles. One of the prominent themes throughout it all is actions have consequences. And as we see Covenant and others face those consequences, how do they manage? How do they survive? Do they crumble before what happens because of what they did? Or do they find ways not to become overwhelmed, persevere, and perhaps even come out on top? Number 9, the Dune series. Started by Frank Herbert, 6 books, and then continued by Brian Herbert, Frank's son, partnering with fantasy author Kevin J. Anderson. This is a fantasy tale dressed up as science fiction. Started in 1965, the final book that's out was published in 2023. Quite a span, and more books could still occur. 26 novels in all. This is a groundbreaking series set in a distant future of our timeline, our world, our universe, where noble houses vie for control of the desert planet Arrakis, the sole source of the universe's most valuable substance, the spice melange. The series follows the rise of Paul Atreides and his descendants as they navigate political intrigue, religious prophecy, and ecological challenges, exploring themes of power, destiny, and the impact of human ambition on society and environment. It goes on to share prequel series and additional novels that just add more flavor to the greater Dune story. People love these Dune books, so they just keep giving us more. You might have heard there were a couple of really popular movies recently. Dune, great material. Number 8, the Shannara books by Terry Brooks. He started these in 1977, and 31 books later, he wrapped it up in 2020. However, Brooks is now writing Shannara again. He's adding some more books, so really this is an ongoing series now. We have a book that's coming out in March. This is a high fantasy saga set in a post-apocalyptic future where magic has reemerged and various races, including elves, dwarves, and humans, vie for dominance and survival. The series weaves together epic quests, ancient prophecies, and complex character relationships across multiple generations, exploring themes of heroism, legacy, and the balance between good and evil. I really appreciate how Brooks sees his world grow and modernize as he covers hundreds of years over the scope of this series, and yet still finds some ways to tie all the books together. Number 7, a shorter series compared to some of the ones I've been tossing at you, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. 5 books, 1991 to 2011, and George owes us 2 more. He's promised. He's even given us the titles, but we've been waiting for 13 years now for book 6. I don't know if we're going to get them, but the 5 that are out are fantastic. A complex, grimdark fantasy series set primarily in the turbulent world, the continent of Westeros, where noble families engage in political intrigue, warfare, and supernatural conflicts to claim the Iron Throne and control the realm. At the same time, some seriously dangerous and crazy stuff is going on in the background, especially north of the Wall. And these things may bring civilization to its knees. The series intricately weaves multiple storylines involving power struggles, ancient prophecies, and the looming threat of an impending winter. And it's just like, really? You guys could be doing all this stuff to fight over a throne? And the world may be coming to an end, and you're not even paying attention. The themes that Martin really leans into are ambition, honor, and the cost of power. Number 6, The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Started in 2010. There are 4 books out. Book 5 comes out in December this year, and then he's going to do 5 more. But the one coming out in December finishes the first half of the series. It is a complete arc. And then we'll move on to something different, connected, but different for the next 5. This epic fantasy series is amazing. That's why it's so high on the list. It's set on the storm-ravaged world of Roshar, where ancient orders of knights and powerful magical forces play crucial roles in the fight against dark, apocalyptic threats. The series is deeply interwoven with the rest of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere novels. These books feature a richly detailed world, complex characters, and intertwining storylines that explore themes of leadership, honor, and the struggle against both internal and external darkness. Really enjoying these. I'm rereading them right now, and Sanderson has put so much into these books. They're fantastic. Number 5, The Axe of Cain by Matthew Woodring Stover. Written from 1998 to 2012. There are 4 books, so it's a quartet, but I've heard rumor that there is a sequel series in the works. This gritty, dark fantasy series is set in a dystopian future where virtual reality and a brutal medieval-style world converge, focusing on Cain, a skilled assassin and anti-hero. The series explores themes of violence, redemption, and the nature of reality through intense action sequences and deep character-driven narratives. This is one of the best written, mind-blowing fantasy series I've come across in a long time, and I'm strongly recommending this one to anyone who's a fan of fantasy and doesn't mind getting a little dirty. Number 4, The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. Written from 1967 all the way to 2018. And there's a chance more books could still come out. There's 24 novels and 2 short story collections amongst all of the books written. This is a science fiction fantasy saga set on the planet Pern, where human settlers bond with telepathic dragons to combat deadly, sporadic spore showers from the sky, which they call Thread. The series combines elements of dragon riding adventure with intricate social structures and explores many different themes, including bravery, loyalty, and the symbiotic relationship between humans and their dragons as they fight for survival on this world. And it's absolutely amazing. Anne McCaffrey was primarily a science fiction author, and she has many other series out there that are set in the same universe as the Pern books. She passed away in 2011, but her son Todd, her middle child, had started writing and co-writing some Pern books with her before she passed away. He started up in 2003, and since her passing, he has continued writing Pern novels, while his younger sister Gigi wrote the latest of the novels called Dragon's Code, and it's received positive reviews. Number 3, way up here now, The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Started in 2000, the series is ongoing. There are 17 novels out to date, and many short stories and novellas that accompany them. This is a fantasy series primarily told in first person by Harry Dresden, a private investigator and the only professional wizard in modern-day Chicago, as he navigates a world filled with supernatural threats, from vampires to fairies. The series blends urban fantasy with hard-boiled detective elements, exploring themes of morality, courage, and the struggle between light and dark forces. I find the humor that Jim Butcher puts into this series just delightful. I laugh out loud so often as I read these books. Not everybody gets Butcher's humor, but I totally do. And if it clicks for you, you are on for a delightful ride. We're expecting 24, maybe 25 books total in this series. There's no date yet on when the next book is going to come out, but we do know what it's called, and we have a general idea of what's it's going to be about, you can check out Jim Butcher's website for more information. Number 2, Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. Started in 1999, the final book, a 10-book epic fantasy series, came out in 2011. This series is set in a sprawling, complex world where gods, ascendants, and ancient civilizations collide in a struggle for power and survival. The series is known for its intricate plot lines, its vast array of characters, and themes of war, betrayal, and the search for meaning in a world rife with magic and political intrigue. I am on the very cusp of finishing the series. I've got just the last quarter of the final book to go, and it is ramping up to a huge finish. So, this could become my number 1 series once it's done. But since I haven't finished the book, I can't, in good faith, do that yet. Now, there are currently 16 additional books set in the Malazan universe, so when I finish this, I can go on to read more. I've read a couple of them already, but the core epic fantasy series is 10 massive books that are just an amazing ride. You don't have to read the other stuff to enjoy these. But number 1, shouldn't be a surprise, The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and then finished by Brandon Sanderson. Written from 1990 through 2013, this series includes 14 books and a prequel. This is an epic fantasy saga set in a world where time is cyclical. What comes will come again. And a young man discovers he is the dragon reborn, destined to fight against the Dark One to save the world. The series features a richly detailed world, extensive character development, so many named characters, and explores themes of fate, power, and the balance between light and shadow through an expansive narrative. While there's definitely a key character in The Dragon Reborn, the richness of this series in part lies in how many other primary characters and storylines are all interwoven together. There's a beautiful balance also, not just between a battle between light and dark, but also between men and women. There are primary protagonists of both men and women, and there's also like bad guys who are main characters. I mean, it's just fantastic to see how much is in this book series, how much foreshadowing is used. It's just incredible. Robert Jordan did pass away before finishing the series, so the final 3 books are co-authored by Brandon Sanderson. He took all of those notes on behalf of Jordan's estate, and well, he was going to try to finish with one last book, and instead 3 massive books of goodness. So there we go, my top 20 so far. How about you? Put other series that would be in your top 20 down in the comment box. I'd love to hear, what are your favorites? And what do you think of my list? What's too low? What's too high, according to your preferences? You can even tell me what's just right. Share anything you want about these in the comments, and I'll be sure to read and respond. And for more episodes like this, be sure to check out our past episodes. We got a lot to say here on Fantasy for the Ages, and we hope you'll subscribe and click that notification bell to see when we publish more. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.